When it comes to online gameplay in the NHL franchise, I'd say the community has been pretty split on what they want for a hockey game. Most casual players want more of a simulation-based gameplay, like a more realistic look at hockey, while most competitive players want less of a simulation-based gameplay and more skill-based. This means they want certain actions to almost always equal a certain outcome, instead of the random chance you see in hockey while performing certain actions, like puck bounces and stuff like that. This puts the EA development team in a pretty tough position when focusing on gameplay, attempting to cater towards both sides of the community while also executing on their own vision for the game with what they themselves have already set in motion. Especially when the additions are highly disliked amongst the community, saying, "Oh, well, we never asked for that," and so on. Even so, it's not something that they can just immediately get rid of. And when they do cater to one side over the other with additions to the game, the opposing side will always complain. To me, I think mediating the middle, where the additions accommodate real hockey scene while also keeping to a high skill gap within, is the best course this franchise could look to achieve for gameplay. Last year, I'd say there was a lot of hate from the competitive side on the additions from EA for gameplay in World of Chel. Mainly the pressure system and goalie fatigue, which still has its faults and complaints to this day. But let's take a look at the new gameplay additions this year for World of Chel and NHL 25. The four main additions to the game this year in NHL 25 were the vision control, powered by the new Ice Cube technology, empowered AI, reactive actions, and the skill-based one-timers. To start with the vision control feature, this feature I thought was great in terms of realism to the game. Being able to stay square to the net with the puck, as well as keeping square to the puck carrier on defense with new animations to help skate sideways, was a really good addition to the game. This helps players expand on their creativity in both offensive and defensive situations on the ice, which adds more of a skill gap to the game. Probably one of the best things they added in recent years. Now, there is an issue within these animations, especially with what can be done with the puck, such as the ability to pivot with the puck utilizing LT/L2. The issue isn't the animation itself, but rather the speed you gain with it. It's a problem because of how players will abuse it to gain speed past defenders while shielding the puck away to get around the bend in order to drive to the net. The speed is very unrealistic, which makes it tough for the average D-man to try and defend it. Another thing abused is the little LT/L2 touch while skating, like sort of feathering the LT, while skating straight to kick yourself forward with a bit more speed each time used. Sometimes it's combined with a half turn, almost like they're kicking themselves forward with the puck. It isn't much, but it's a way to gain that little bit of extra speed to either get by or cut with the puck for a lane, which is unrealistic. The speed from these LT/L2 movements just needs to be slower so it isn't abused in such a way. Either make the normal straight line speed increased a bit, like before, or just nerf the speed you get with these pivot animations. This affects defensemen trying to stay in front of them to always turn and skate to match speed quickly. Staying in a back pedal while a player is LTing to the outside will almost always result in the D-man getting burnt, which takes away from the realistic look of the defenseman trying to stay square to the puck. It's like second nature now to always turn and skate now when players get up to speed due to the speed being abused in the game. As far as empowered AI, there's not much to talk about here when it comes to World of Chel AI. I hardly ever play with the AI unless I'm playing 2s, but I always have a full team when playing 3s and 6s. The strategy around playing with an AI is to just forget they're even on the ice. They don't contribute that much offensively unless you set them up, and they're obviously abysmal defensively. Overall, it doesn't look like the empowered AI talking point really did anything to the AI, but you guys let me know. Next is the reactive actions. This is great when it works as intended, but can get in the way at times when trying to perform a specific action on the ice. Many times trying to cut to find a lane up ice, only to find myself completely avoiding a player and losing all my speed on a breakout is pretty frustrating. It can be annoying seeing my player jet out of the way and leave the player I'm covering open in front for a deflection or pass. Other than that, when it does work, it's a nice way to obviously avoid unnecessary contact, which is a realistic look at hockey. I say the issues with it can be related to skill most likely. The skill-based one-timers was an addition I didn't anticipate being added to the game. My original thoughts were that it would either be too OP, which it was, or that players with higher ping would have a more difficult time getting a green one-timer off than those with less ping. Seems like the ping wasn't really an issue, as the timing window for a green shot wasn't as precise as I thought it would be. But the issue with it being too OP was definitely the case. There were players that had no business scoring one-timers, getting goals from it, especially against AI tendies. Now, this got nerfed throughout the year by simply decreasing the amount the indicator was showing up for potential one-timer options. It just didn't pop up sometimes. Some people were claiming it was a glitch in the game. which it could have been, but the problem was semi-fixed with abusing green one-timers, so if it was a glitch, EA just simply left it. Didn't nerf the shot, it was basically close to rocking a gold one-timer trait. Getting the indicator didn't really matter if you chose to put on the 1T trait. The amount of goals I scored this year for the point with a low shot but silver 1T was the most out of all the previous NHLs I played online in the past. The 1T shot itself just had a significant buff this year for no reason. This wouldn't stop AI attendees from darting over to stop a high percentage one-timer, but more times than not, it would go in from the right angle. I get the concept of the skill-based one-timers, but I felt it was poorly implemented and was very inconsistent to try and balance out. It seemed useless when you could still ready your player for a 1T by holding up on the right stick while LTing to square yourself up for a shot, and your player would automatically shoot when the pass came. So nothing really came from it unless you didn't have a 1T trade on and the indicator popped up for you by chance. One thing I'd say needs fixing for gameplay is the reverse hits. They were far too OP this year for no reason. There's absolutely no reason to rock back at you with the way reverse hitting has been this year. The reverse hit animation powers through all other animations, no matter how much speed you had versus them, which is extremely unrealistic. Unless you rock maybe truculence, which I haven't tested out, but it definitely needs severe nerfing going into NHL 26. Reverse hitting shouldn't even be an option for the average build. Should only become available to the build that has the necessary trait on. Next change that pertains to gameplay was the nerf to speed this year. I thought this was a good change in an attempt to slow down the game overall and make it less arcade-like. On paper, this makes the straight line gameplay less of an ideal strategy to produce offensively and would encourage players to have to work a cycle or more team play. But as mentioned before, with the LT/L2 turn animations granting extra speed, you now have players with the puck moving faster than players without it. So overall, we have a natural speed to the game that is slower than these cheesy animations, some may say, that allows us to move faster than without them. It's very unrealistic to the game of hockey, and for both sides of the ice, this needs to be addressed moving forward. Decrease the speed you get from these animations to either match the normal straight line speed, or make it slower so it isn't used and abused by players, which will force us to change how we play in order to create offense and get back on defense. Some of the critiques people address in this game come from the residue from NHL 24 that remained this year in 25, that being the pressure system and goalie fatigue. These two things are my biggest critique when it comes to gameplay. It wasn't even something that was added this year. Don't know exactly how casual players see these features, but from a competitive standpoint, these features received major complaints from those players. It isn't activated as frequently like it did in early NHL 24 when it was first introduced, but can still have a major impact on gameplay when it does activate. And how it activates could be somewhat questionable based on luck bounces back to the offense, which leads to extended plays. And when enough shots happen, the pressure system will activate, which severely increases the chance of the offense to score. The reason we don't like it is because it isn't always something based around skill to activate, but the luck chances at getting the puck back off a bounce. Then your team is basically drained for some time. Not based around skill, but a feature that holds the team back. This also connects to goalies and the fatigue they get when making consecutive saves. Their stamina drains, making them less likely to save the next puck thrown their way, which takes away from the skill gap needed to play tendy. It's not the skill that's affected, but a feature that limits their skill. This is why I hear more and more goalies are dropping out from the game, because it's a major hassle to try and grind something that limits their abilities in net based on phantom pressure built. Couple that with how many skaters blame goalies for not saving pucks they should have, and the wonky save animations a goalie gets based on their stamina bar. This doesn't make sense from a competitive standpoint, and many competitive players have dropped out of the competitive scene because of these features. They simply need to be removed and allow the players to dictate the skill gap. Moving into World of Chel features, the only new thing added this year were live events. Didn't spend too much time here, and the only noticeable new game mode that came from this was the NHL arcade mode. Thought it was pretty cool and fun at times when just messing around. They should just keep these modes in the game permanently instead of just taking them out after a certain amount of days pass. As far as the battle pass in store, I addressed this last year and my thoughts remain the same. Battle pass should be eliminated, and the store should have all items available to the player, so we can manually purchase the items we want, so we don't have to wait for it to show up in the store or get them in bags by random chance. I have so many unused points I've earned in game and don't care to use any of them because I hate looking at the store every day to try and see if what I want is there. Makes no sense, and I just don't care. Same with customization. Don't know if there's an apply to all button, but if it ain't there, it should be. Make it easier. For drop-ins and clubs, same feedback as last year. Make the drop-in games like Rocket League where you join a lobby and if somebody backs out, they can be replaced mid-game with a player waiting in the queue. Keeps human players on the ice, which is the whole point of World of Chel. Also get rid of the ranking system that comes with drop-in games. As far as club games, allow us to rejoin mid-game if we get disconnected. Have us wait till next face-off when joining back and keep the game going. Too many times a disconnection happens and we have to finish the game with an AI because of an automatic loss if the whole team backs out to get that player back that disconnected. Simple things that EA can add that I would love to see. Moving into build changes, I like the idea of removing elite edges from the game this year. It made sense when every player would just run elite edges because of how OP the trait is. It does allow us to expand on our skill for those who can really benefit from the quick turns, but overall it didn't expand the variety of different builds that could be made. It's a nice change, increased agility to give us some of that speed back, but other metas came into form. Puck on a string was used mainly on forwards, and stick 'em up became the trait of choice on D. To me, you could do this for years and players would just move on to the next trait that gives them the best chance to gain the edge on everyone else. They need to rework the trait system or completely take it out. For years, speed has always been the main choice on many builds to max out with no counter when using big builds. They're simply too slow and ineffective. Big builds need to have a strength of their own. Balanced builds included too. Make these builds slightly faster, but also make them stronger with the puck. Make them immovable to a smaller build trying to nudge them for the puck. Make them stronger when pulling the puck and shooting it away from small builds. Give them the ability to power through if there's a gap in defense and not just easily lose the puck. Anything to raise the strength of having a big build, as that's the whole point of them. Not too OP of course, but give strengths to each build archetype so it invites build variety. As it stands, there's no point using a big build if they can lose the puck very easily and have no hope in catching a player with speed. Makes them useless. My ratings for the game will be for gameplay and World of Chel. Last year I gave NHL 24 gameplay a 4 out of 10. The changes added this year do bump it up in my opinion to a 5 out of 10. Could honestly be a 6 out of 10 if they fix some of the abused animations for speed and the OP reverse hitting, as well as getting rid of the pressure system and goalie fatigue. The game could be a 6 out of 10, possibly 7 out of 10, depending on if the additions next year are realistic to the game of hockey and apply a fun competitive skill gap, but we'll see. For my World of Chel rating, last year I gave a 5 out of 10, and this year will be the same. To me, not enough is added to change the experience we get, and it could have dropped a point if nothing changed at all, but I'm being generous by keeping it the same. There needs to be more creativity here, something to get the casual player wanting to come back and become a regular. Adding the NHL arcade mode was a nice touch. There could have been more added. Seems to be the story of EA, is that's the main complaint every year. Did bare minimum, not enough added. It is a smaller studio working on this game, not as big as Madden or FIFA, but if you want more players to return or join up, there needs to be much more added each year that appeals to the player base. Let me know your thoughts on this video in the comments down below. I appreciate you for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new, hit that bell so you don't miss out on any new videos coming out, and I will see you in the next one.